Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's hot topic video here on my Waves of Communication page. My name is Marci Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist consultant. And I help parents teach their late talking children how to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world. And one of the ways that I do that is with my live videos every week. This week's topic is really kind of pulling out my intuitive side. We're going to be talking about the moon. So if you have ever been interested in how the moon might be affecting your communication, your child's communication, maybe the communication that is going on with you with coworkers and other people in your family, I'm here today on this hot topic video to talk about that subject. I just wanted to say hey and thank you for watching to all the people who are watching me on Facebook and on YouTube. I really appreciate you watching all of these videos because that means that you are here because you want to learn how to help your child. You want to learn how to get communication flowing, verbal speech going in your household, and that's what I'm here to do. So thank you so much for joining me. By the way, if you want to see more videos, I have a ton of them on my YouTube channel, so you can check out lots of them. All right, let's get in and talk about the moon today. So what we are, I just want to make sure I can try to share this video. Yeah, let's see if I can. Whoops.
And thank you for watching to all the people who are watching.
Oop, that didn't work out. Sorry. I'll figure it out another time. Just trying to share these videos, doing it all myself. That's something that I'm trying to get and to be an expert at, and I can share them one direction and not the other. Anyway, so sorry about that. Didn't mean to drop you all off. Hopefully you're here, you're watching because you want to learn about the moon and how the moon can affect your child and your communication and how communication rolls around the moon. So there's some different ways to look at how the moon affects us. The moon is the biggest planetary, the closest planetary body that's flying around in outer space. Obviously, out in outer space, there's lots of things flying around, and they run into each other, or they come close to each other, and when they do, gravitational pull gets affected, and also the moon affects the earth, you know, because of that gravitational pull as it goes in different places close to the earth. It also is a reflector for the sun's energy. So not only do we get to experience the sun's directly straight at us during sunlight time, but when the sun's not shining directly on our part of the earth, we get reflective light from the moon. And everybody knows that that sunlight is what keeps us alive. And so what happens is not only is there gravitational pull that's affecting our planet, our Earth planet, also there's light that affects our planet. And all of those things are changing as the sun moves around, not the sun, the earth moves around the sun, and as the moon moves around the earth. And when all of those things line up in different ways, those gravitational pull and the light, the variances in those things affect us as human beings. And that's because the pull, the gravitational pull that happens from the moon, it moves the water. So all the oceans, when there is the moon changes, the oceans change. So the full moon has a lot of energy, and that's when the tides are the biggest. And when the moon is very quiet and it's dark, it's not reflecting and it's not pulling on the earth as much. And so then that means that the gravitational pull is not as strong, the light energy is not as bright, so the tides are more mellow and relaxed. And if something is so big that it's affecting the tide and how the tides go in the oceans, considering our bodies are made up mostly of water, that same gravitational pull affects our bodies. And depending on where the moon and the sun line up with the earth, that affects how the energy affects the different places and parts of our bodies. And that's how the whole astrology science, it comes together, how the patterns of observation have come together to create a whole resource of data and information that professional astrologers use to help predict things like, you know, a lot of things. So anyway, what today, though, I had to give you that little background so that I could talk about how all of that affects communication. So when the energy of the planet is affected and the energy of our human beings, the physical bodies that we have here are affected, it affects how we feel. And how we feel definitely affects how we communicate. So the moon affects how our body feels. Our body feels, the changes in how our body feels affect our emotional body feelings. And then those emotional body feelings affect our communication. When we feel in one way, we communicate that way. When we feel another way, we communicate those feelings in another way. And nonverbal kids, just like dogs or animals in general, and all people, even people in nursing homes who've lost the ability to talk, people who, they don't have to be in nursing homes, but any human who's had communication and lost it, anyone who is a human or has a level of consciousness where they want to communicate things to you. These beings, all of us as communicators, get affected because the things that we use to communicate non-verbally change drastically based on our feelings. So if the magnets and the lights that are pulling on our bodies are affecting our feelings, and our feelings are affecting our emotions, and our emotions are affecting our communication, what if we paid attention to what that moon and earth relationship energy is actually doing, and pay attention to those patterns that have been studied for centuries, and think about how it affects us and our communication? And if we knew what those aspects, the moon relating to the earth and relating to the sun, if we knew what those aspects meant, what they historically have seen on the planet, then maybe we could use that information to help us understand our nonverbal kids. And so I've been thinking about that quite a bit because we have a particularly big full moon, and because I know that this is true about how the changes in the moon affect me, I study it and I pay attention to what's going on with the moon aspects, because I kind of want to be prepared for and maybe plan my activities around better times. So for example, in a new moon time, when we talk about moon phases, so this is one of the ways we can learn from the moon. In moon phases, when the moon is new, that means that it is sitting just next to the sun and they're far enough away from each other, you know, there's no reflective way. When the moon has light, it means the sun is reflecting, it's shining on it, it's reflecting on the earth, and the earth is bouncing back off. But when the sun and the moon sit together, it can't bounce off the earth, it's dark. If the earth is dark, then the moon is dark because the sun doesn't reflect off of it. But when it's as opposite, and it's shining, the sun is obviously a lot bigger than the earth. The sun is shining all the way through the earth, straight on into the moon, and you know, through the parts of the earth. It's across, it's straight on, called opposed in the technology. Then the sun's full energy is shining straight at the moon, right? Or if the moon is reflecting that sun off of the earth, and the moon is sitting in a place where the earth's not blocking it, right? When the sun gets in the way, I guess it's not. They have to be where the sun is getting all the light is the full moon. And the sun is getting no light is the new moon. So the new moon, there's no energy. Like I talked about, the full moon time is when the tides go. You can obviously tell I'm not an astrologer. I'm a speech pathologist, and I'm just trying to figure out how to tell you guys how to do this. So forgive my layperson's astrology. As a matter of fact, if you want to see a real astrologer talk about the new moon or the full moon that we have, I put a video in the link in the description. But here's the thing about the moon phases. So you don't even need to understand the science behind it. And that's the whole point of, you know, it's ridiculous for me to try to explain it, because you don't even need to understand the science. What you just need to understand is sort of the rational understanding of what's happening. So when the moon is new, if you hear, you see on the weather report, you can look on phone apps, it's a new moon time, it'll look dark. That's because the moon is dark because the sun's energy is not getting to it when we can see it, when you can see it from the earth. And so it's not reflecting, it's not pulling, the sun's energies aren't flying at the moon, and the magnetic energy is not pulling on the tides. It's quiet. So if you're feeling energies, the energies that you feel around whatever's going on at that time could be very muted, because remember, we all function on sun energy. And when there's a lot of sun energy coming during the day in the summertime, we have a lot more energy. When there's a lot of sun energy coming in a full moon time, we have a lot of energy. When there's no sun coming or very little sun coming at the new moon energy, it's dark. The energy's slow and soft. And in introspective, when the energy's bright, we want to talk about it, we want to explain it. And for a nonverbal child, that's going to look like behavior. So in a new moon time, your child may be more reserved and calm and quiet and introspective, so into their own thing, liking their Legos, liking their videos, liking their personal stuff. Stimming, you might see more stimming during this time, because stimming is what kids do to sort of get their head organized, and this feels good to me and I like it. Kids who pay attention to the rain, kids, you know, things like that. All of that stuff happens a lot more at a new moon, when a child is just kind of enjoying their own space. It's not a social time. It's not an interactive time. It's more getting right. And when tomorrow's video, I'm going to talk about using the new moon phase to get started with new projects, because the new moon time is when we think about ideas, and it would be good if I could do this, and this would be a nice thing. And we think about our problems too. We think about, ooh, this is something that I'm struggling with. You know, when you have a moment to sit and think, have a little think, introspective, look at what's going on. How it affects communication is we think about how we feel when people talk to us at the new moon. We're very sensitive to, you know, instead of being expressive in the energy going out from us like the bright moon, we're receptive and we're pulling in energy, and kind of, you know, we need energy. We need to feel brighter because it's introspective and dark, right? Even the world feels dark. The day is darker. It's not a bright day where you can go outside and see a lot of shadows even. New moon, dark, dark time, right? Feels creepier. It's, you know, just not as vibrant and exciting. So your communication and your child's communication is going to reflect that new moon time, when it's not expressive and outward. So if you're trying to pull language from your late talking child and it's a new moon phase, you're going to have even more difficulty, because they're not even going to have it. They're not even going to want to try. They're going to want to just wonder why you're pulling language from them, or they're going to be thinking about the whole process. So the period of time between the new moon and the full moon is when the energy starts to come in, right? Because the new moon is when the energy is slow and empty. It's like your can is empty, your bucket is empty, and you need to start collecting energy. So that's a good time to learn new things and study, start new programs. That's why a lot of people start new things at the new moon. The new moon, they like, I intend during this period of time, they set intentions. I intend to learn this thing. I intend to teach my kiddo new words every day. I intend to talk more with my child. The new moon time is when you can set those intentions, and because you get the ideas. You're thinking about your problems, and you're wondering about how am I going to solve this problem? And you're putting on your thinking cap, and you're researching a lot. You're looking at videos like this. You're wondering, what do I do? Like, how can I help my child? What can I do to solve this problem? You're thinking about it. You're making plans. And then you take action, and it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds for another 2 weeks until the full moon happens. And then the energy from the sun is at its biggest, and that's when you're like, whoa, I learned a ton. So the new moon to the full moon phase is learning and gaining information. And then at the full moon is when you practice it and you test it and you try it out and you get your first whiff of, can this work for me? Is this going to do what I want? So with language facilitation, you're modeling words, you're doing things. By you hit the new moon time, you might see more words now because your child's confidence is building, because you've been feeding them language, you've been doing new stuff. So, now is the time to be seeing, really evaluating, is it working? This is, that's why I said it's good testing time to kind of see, is my effort working? Am I seeing an improvement? Because now is the time that my child's going to shine. Sunshine, full moon, big energy. The tides are rocking and rolling. The ocean is churning up. All the energy is going up into the atmosphere, and we're all perceiving it, right? Because we're water and we're moving around. It's big energy where we're just exchanging. It's social time, where the new moon is introspective. The full moon is exploring and checking out new things. So the new moon time, we're all going to be very communicative. Some of us, we might not even know what we're saying, and we're just talking. Blah, 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 blah. For me, I get very verbose, like this kind of a video. It's not very organized, and I'm just kind of talking, and I hope you get the idea, because my intuition is on fire. The energy from the planets are coming in for this full moon. And this is a big one, and I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. But the moon phases, like I said, if you pay attention, so after the new moon, or after the full moon, so after the new moon, you start your work, and you get working and working and working. In the new moon, you do your testing. And then what might happen sometimes is the energy starts to fade. And that's kind of like the honeymoon's over, all right? We tried it, and we're doing a lot of stuff, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow with some real strategies about timing your language facilitation efforts to get maximum benefit by just paying attention to the moon. But because it affects our communication in a way where we want to be social, because we're confident about talking, we've learned some words from our language facilitator parents, we understand the right words the right way at the right time, these kids, and they feel confident, and they start trying and saying words, and they may be good at it, but they likely aren't going to be very good at it. They're going to try, and they're going to give you effort. So that's why the first 2 weeks are really important, because that's about how long a moon cycle is. The phase of the moon, the first half of it, a whole moon cycle is 28 days. So the second half, after the full moon, after that big energy comes and the confidence builds and the social starts, you might test your child, and then they might, be a little overconfident, and they might not do very well, or they might start talking and nobody can understand them. And then you're like, yeah, right, because your child's going, a lot more verbal, but you can't understand what it is, and you're like, oh, I think this is good. There's more stuff happening. So the time between the full moon and the new moon, that 2 weeks time, is when you evaluate and tweak your systems, because you think about, all right, we saw some good stuff. It's not exactly what we want. It's not exactly where we want, because you can't make progress in 2 weeks, right? It's just starting. You gave your first effort, you evaluate that stuff. The second half is when your next phase, where you decide, okay, these are the things that worked. We're going to keep doing these and turn up the heat on that stuff for the next one, because now we've got this new energy and now we're sure about it because we've been trying it for a little while. So you're going to keep working with your kiddo, and your communication is going to be more confident because your child's communication is going to be more confident. And this phase, it has a lot of potential for growth, but it also has a lot of potential for sabotage, because you could think, wow, this was really great growth, but because without really firm foundation and continued to support, you're going to get to your new moon phase and go, wait a minute, it's not working as well as it did. Like, why does it go? Because that's how the waves of communication go. That's how the tides go. They're really big and then they back off. And you have to think about it. So you really, the next phase, that's when you dig in and you get rid of anything that's not working. The first phase, between new moon, full moon, you try everything and you would analyze and you see what's working and you do your testing and you try. And then you evaluate. Is this working? Is this not working? And you remember, you have to do that evaluation based on your own self. Like, is this working for me in my situation? Not, is this working for my neighbors or the people I see on YouTube or other families that Marci talks about in her program? Are these strategies working for me? And if they are, then you keep them. If not, that new moon is the time to get rid of them and start new and get new strategies. And that's how it goes a lot. And sometimes it takes a few moon cycles to get through this understanding of, okay, now we're really on the right path, because what happens is the things you keep each cycle, you build those, right? You turn up the fire, you turn up the heat, the light, the magnets, the energy, the waves on the stuff that works well, and the stuff that doesn't, it just kind of starts to fall away and not work very well. But it's really, really important that you don't just do this 1 month a year, right? Every single month, every 28 days, this all happens again. And one of the things that can help you, because now all through the year, the moon and, we have new moon, full moon, right? But some new moons are closer to the earth. Some full moons are closer to the earth. Some new moons, sometimes the earth is closer to the sun. Sometimes the earth is farther away from the sun, or you're part of the earth, right? Because what happens is, as the seasons change, the new moon, full moon, the energy in them changes too. Sometimes in the summer, when the sun is very hot during the day, it's also very hot during the night. And so that whole season of time is a lot more energy, and sometimes people get a lot more done. In the winter time, because there's a lot more darkness and it feels farther away, then it's quieter. A lot more people spend time indoors. They are, cuddling in blankets, keeping warm. In the summer, it's warm outdoors. You can get out and explore. In the winter, it's cold outdoors, so you have to be inside. And your energy in all of those phases of times of the year is something else you need to really pay attention to in the process of planning and teaching your child. Because your communication as a mom, as a parent, as a dad too, also changes with these things. Just because your child, the moon is new moon, doesn't mean that your energy doesn't change just as much as your child. So maybe the activities and things that you plan with your child at new moon time can be more chill and mellow. And the activities you plan with your child at full moon time can be more, outgoing and energetic and social, right? So that's something to consider. And then again, the time of year. Now, one of the things that astrologers will tell you, and that, there's a lot of proof that different things happen when the seasons, because remember we talked about how the energy changes at different seasons because of the aspects, relationships change. How close are they together? How far apart are they? And where are they relationship to each other? All three of them, the sun, the moon, and the earth. And what you need to pay attention to when the seasons change is that there's a reason that the calendars are set up the way they are. And it's because the earth usually makes big changes at or around these times of the year that have been designated: spring, summer, winter, and fall. And the calendar really kind of starts in the spring because that's when the new growth starts. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, we're getting at spring now, and the world is changing, depending on what side you are, from getting either a lot cooler to a lot warmer, or from a lot warmer to a lot cooler. And there are major shifts in temperature during these periods of time. And whenever the temperature changes, the weather changes, the waves change, and people have to adapt, right? Because like I said, if it's cold, you have to wear different clothing, you have to spend more time indoors, you have to change your car stuff. I mean, depending on where you live, the seasons could change a lot. Most of the United States have a lot of different variances in temperature. And when these times of year happen, you have to change a lot of things in your life. Your wardrobe, your car, your food, because different food is available during different seasons. Your diet changes. All of these changes are happening in the seasons. So when you think about the seasons, so here we've got spring starting this month on the 20th, and it just happens to be the same day as a full moon. So big energy, and this one happens to be a super moon, which means that it is one of 5 full moons that is the closest to the earth. So this full moon that we're having this week on the 20th of March, if you're here in the United States, it's the 21st early in the morning, right after midnight, and yep, 8:30 something, between 8 and 9 p.m. It doesn't even matter because it doesn't happen like a light switch. So if you are on the East Coast of the United States, the biggest shift in energy is going to be between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., like that. That's when the moon's going to be like, ready, ready, ready. We're almost full. We're almost full. We're full now. And we're still very full, very full, very full. Like the biggest energy of the whole time is going to happen during those hours, just as all of those things line up for that little period of time. The whole day you may feel it. You may feel it. I'm already kind of feeling it, actually. The biggest energy, like I said, is just around those hours, but just because we're changing. And I think I'm feeling it, and I know that other people might be feeling it too, because not only do we have the change in this full moon, big super moon, very close to the planet, throwing lots of energy at us, making the tides move really big because it's very, very close, so the magnets are bigger, the tides are bigger than the average full moon. So everything's moving, sloshing around. All the fish in the ocean are jazzing around because the surfers are loving it because the tides are going to be really big, and the sun's going to be bright. So everybody, ooh, sorry, my nose itches, thinking about surfers in California who are going to be all week long loving some tasty waves because big full moon, and this is the last one. There were 5 in a row, and now we're going to start to get to a point where the moon is a little farther away, but it's going to start to get brighter for us here in the northern hemisphere because summer's coming. So the shift is changing in the temperature. The shift is changing in the relationship with the sun and the moon and the earth. The shift is changing in the light. And the shift is changing in the seasons, and we're all having to do things in our everyday lives to make that happen. We have to do our taxes. We have to get our cars de-winterized or winterized. You know, all of that stuff is starting to happen. It's, you know, the actual new year when stuff starts to, you know, we have to get stuff done. And that's why now is the time, if you are looking at getting started on any new project, this is your full moon to get going with it. If you are stuck with your kiddo and they're not communicating because you just don't know what to do, you've been in your new moon phase and you were just stuck and you're ready to go, you want to figure out what's happening, now is the time with the change in the season. So by the time this new moon gets here, the next one right at the beginning of April, you're going to be ready to, ready to go. You're going to feel like you want to start new things because it's spring. It's ready to go. And the parents in my Waves of Communication are getting ready for spring, are getting ready to get going, and you can too. So, all right, I know that this was a very abstract kind of video. I know there were some bits in there of useful information. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you love the moon, give me a comment. If you follow the moon and you've noticed it, it would be cool to see your comments about that. And if you haven't noticed the moon, I challenge you to pay attention over the next week and notice your child's behavior. You might see some real unpredictable, brand new stuff. You might hear words you didn't used to hear. You might see attitudes you didn't used to see. You might see your child's confidence exploding because this energy is really big. And they may not be very good at communicating, but they may be very confident about it. And when your child wants to communicate, that's when it's very, very important for you to dig in and do language facilitation. So make sure you tune in to tomorrow's video in the Language Facilitation Resources group and on YouTube, where I'm going to give you practical strategies, what to do to plan for this new moon, take advantage of this full moon tomorrow, this coming up this week, and plan for the new moon so that you are ready to go and get on your language facilitation path, because this video is already getting too long. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody. I really look forward to seeing you on my next live video. Hey, make a comment, like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, everybody. Love y'all. I'll see you on my next video.